everybody. It's really a great honor and pleasure for me to be back here. 3 years after I graduated, 2 years after I graduated, but 3 years after I started thinking about my career properly. Basically, during my time here at Glasgow Uni, I spent a lot of my time thinking about the future. What career I will pursue, what will I do? And I have to confess, I was quite confused during my student years, and I still am up to this day. So the reason why I'm here today is, first of all, to ask you one question. How many of you are uncertain in regards to what careers you want to pursue? Or how many of you were when you were a student? You can raise your hands up if you are. Okay. So a good portion of you. The reason why I'm here is to tell you it's actually okay to be confused about the careers you want to pursue. Because basically, there's, if you look at the pre-industrial world, there's an estimated, I think, 2,000 different trades. Forward a couple hundred years after, nowadays, there's more than 500,000 different options. So your confusion is perfectly normal. Basically, the result of this multitude of options is the fact that we're so afraid now, we're so anxious to make any choices, we end up making no choice at all. So psychologists even coined the term for this, the paradox of choice. Or in other words, the paralysis stemming from having too many options. For the stories I'm about to share in a few minutes, I hope to make you feel a bit more comfortable with this uncertainty, which is only going to increase throughout your life, as well as help you to trust your gut feeling more often, because this will guide you through your life. So, I won't show you the lesson first because basically my story starts here at, as I said, at Glasgow University during my last 2 years, basically, where I was thinking a lot about the careers I want to do, and since I studied business and management and I had a couple of jobs in marketing, I thought, well, I have to find a place where I can put marketing theory into practice. This is how I came to discover the fast-moving consumer goods industry, which is an industry in which companies basically sell products, from cosmetics to chocolate to even dog food. Anything that sells is sold usually by fast-moving consumer goods companies. So I started frantically applying for these companies, and after, as you probably all know, hundreds of online applications, a dozen interviews, and a couple of assessment centers, I got a summer internship with a big American chocolate manufacturer. So I went down south in Reading, England, to spend my summer there and, again, hopefully apply as much theory as I could. However, the 3 months I spent there were quite confusing for me. It was the first corporate experience I had, and I have to be honest, it was quite daunting at first. The open plan offices, the company culture, everything was so new to me, and everything was so scary. So at the end of the day, I really thought, did I enjoy these 3 months after the internship ended? And I said, not really. So what did I do was still stay within this industry I was describing before, but apply for different jobs, for different companies, for actually our competitors. So after having a couple of interviews lined up and going, I think, halfway through them, I realized, what am I doing here? These companies are virtually the same. I'm still not feeling as comfortable as I should in a job. So I decided to stop looking. And this is where the first lesson came into place, because my mind was so filled with thoughts, and I felt quite stuck in terms of my career. I decided to, well, lesson one, take a short break, as easy as that might sound. I went back home to Romania, where I come from, for a short 2-week holiday. In this holiday, besides spending time with my family and loved ones, I really wanted to see what the job market looks like over there. So I went to 2 networking events. I went there prepared with an elevator pitch, as well as bulletproofed with business cards, as many as I had, because I wanted to meet many employers and hopefully get something. The results were quite amazing, even for me, which I am a convinced networker, but the results surprised me. I managed to get 10 interviews lined up and subsequently 6 job offers. This was quite unusual for me. I was young in my career, and I was like, whoa, what's this? I mean, I never expected there's even a wish from companies in Romania to attract students who went abroad to study. But here I was, faced with a huge opportunity, which only had one problem. It went against my original plans. Because if, I don't know, maybe some of you met me during my last year of university, I was always telling people, plan A is to stay in the UK, probably move down south to work in London. Plan B, go somewhere in Western Europe, potentially France, where I studied abroad, and plan C, if all other plans fail, go back to Romania, go back home. So I obviously was not very keen on going back, but I said, well, maybe this is a sign, maybe I have to stay. So I went against basically my plans, and I discovered the second rule, the second lesson. Because you always have to keep an open mind, especially when opportunity presents itself, you have to grab it even with both hands. And in my case, I grabbed one of these opportunities, the one more balanced, I think. It was a French company, I won't name it, but it was one of the biggest cosmetics manufacturers. So I was back in Romania, canceling my plans and returning back home much, much sooner than I expected. I spent there 9 months at this company, and those 9 months were again filled with mixed emotions. On, I think, the first 5 or 6 months, I was involved in a really interesting project. I was about to launch a new brand in that part of Europe, which was really exciting, really captivating. However, after those 5 or 6 months, there was a drought in terms of projects I was involved in. And as any hungry young individual would do, I started asking my superiors, what's happening? Why am I not getting involved in more projects after I finish this one? I want to learn more. And funny enough, and this does happen from what I've heard in other multinationals, I was discussing for managers, HR managers, and even the CEO. I had the one-to-one with the CEO, and I asked him something quite simple. I said, what does the future hold for me here? What sort of projects should I expect? And he blatantly told me, David, you should be quite fortunate you were here in this period and you were involved in that previous project, because something like this doesn't happen too often with our company. It's still a new office, so it won't happen again too soon. This obviously had a really damaging effect to my morale, and that was probably the first time in my life I started to question my decisions. I was thinking, is this industry the right one for me? Because the job definitely wasn't. So what I decided to do, as with any bad feeling you have when you don't feel you belong in a certain career or relationship or anything in your life, the best thing to do is to, lesson 3, take a radical step left or right. In my case, the step was hopefully forwards, because I decided to work for a venture capital business. So I changed the industry finally. I was working now with, this business basically was investing in startups. So my clients now were young people like myself. It was a really vibrant place to work in. Also, the team was quite small, completely different from a corporation, and again, really nice coworkers. At the bottom of the day, I think that the most important issue, the most important thing which convinced me to get this opportunity was the man who founded this venture capital business. He's one of the most well-respected entrepreneurs and angel investors, not just in Romania, but in Southeast Europe. So here I was, about to embark on a new adventure. I was really, really excited, so excited that I even decided to take a couple of weeks off to defer my start date so I can relax a bit. I started after the 2 weeks of holiday, and basically everything went exactly according to plan. The job was well paid, I had satisfactions, I was even my own boss. Well, it's funny that I was the head of a department, but I was the only one working in that department. It wasn't bad. I mean, who wouldn't want to be his own boss in a way at 23? It was quite cool. But something happened. A phone call changed my life completely in just a month and a week. That phone call announced me I would become the next Romanian United Nations Youth Delegate. So I was going to represent young people from my country at the UN. This was both gratifying and shocking at the same time, because I was already dreading the moment I have to tell my boss. That moment came the same day, actually 2 hours after I got this opportunity. And well, as you might expect, he wasn't so happy. He said, David, you have by the end of the day to tell me. It's going to be either my venture capital business or your UN thing. Those 2 or 3 hours were probably the most difficult hours in my life. I started to panic. I started to call mom, dad, friends, mentors. What should I do? I have a paid job, good job. It's satisfying. But I also have this opportunity, which is, yes, unpaid, but it's once in a lifetime. Because you can only be a youth delegate up until you're 25, and now I'm 24. So I was really confused, and the help, well, my friends and mentors and so on, they did help, but most of their advice was contradicting. Some say, give it away. Some others said, well, take this new opportunity. What I did was, and this goes back, I think, to lesson number 4, is I followed my heart, as cheesy as that might sound, because all the thoughts I had in my mind that afternoon didn't really help. So I just followed my heart and quit the job the same day. And I dreaded that decision probably for the next 2 months, because I discovered how it is to be unpaid, to live off your economies, to still ask your parents for support. It's not fun if you did have employment before. Also, what didn't really help is that the program is quite badly structured. We were selected in September last year, and 2 weeks after, they sent us to the UN. I say they when I refer to the government, because it is a governmental program. So they sent us to the UN to represent the voices of 5 or 6 million young people in my country. Loads of pressure, really stressful, and that didn't really help. But as things moved on and time went by, I discovered basically that this program is actually not that bad, and I potentially made the right decision. I even found out some facets of my personality I didn't know I had. I discovered the joy of volunteering. Don't get me wrong, I volunteered before here at Glasgow Uni, in my high school, and even after work. But volunteering from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. is something completely different. You really feel you're giving your life away in a way to a higher cause. In my case, the higher cause was the voice of all young people in Romania, to represent it as genuinely as possible. So I think with all good things in life, if you put a lot of passion into what you do and you really have faith that things will work out in the end, you generally attract good things. You probably remember, some of you, the law of attraction, because the law of attraction says that if you put positive things into your life, you will attract other positivity in it. In my case, this positivity came at the beginning of this year, when just out of the blue, somebody offered me a really high-level role, a really important role in the Romanian government, to be an advisor to a Secretary of State, something I never knew I could do, especially 2 years after graduating, and still, I am a youth delegate, so I didn't really know how to take it. What was even more surprising for me, that the person who offered me this role, I only met him once during that 1 month I stayed in the venture capital business, and I only spoke with him 15 minutes. So I don't know who recommended me, but there's definitely some divide forces in there. And I cannot really share any stories about this new experience, but I really hope to learn as much as possible and hopefully share it in the future. What this experience actually taught me, or reminded me of, is this quote from Steve Jobs. And I won't read it for you, probably all know it, but if I have to connect the dots looking backward in my life, especially in my last years at university, I would probably laugh, and I would be quite amused at how anxious and scared I was about careers and choosing one, and especially about my idea of choosing a career that will probably last me for 2 or 3 years. That didn't really happen, and I'm glad it didn't, because nowadays, we live in an interconnected world in which landing that perfect job is not going to happen too easy. And making your way up the career ladder is also something that's becoming slowly obsolete. Nowadays, because of the agility of people to move, both from economic and geographic reasons, coupled with the increased access to information, makes us, or most of us in this room today, the millennials, the most willing generation to job hop in recent history. So we have quite a great opportunity, I guess, because of all these traits I mentioned earlier. Also, research suggests that recent graduates, like some of you in the near future, are basically going to have more than a dozen jobs by the time they hit their 30s. This is something probably unimaginable for our parents, but for us, it's becoming more and more routine. This is due to the job environment you all know probably by now, which is quite uncertain. So you always have to explore multiple industries in case the industries you're in just goes bankrupt, or who knows what else could happen. Your 20s, my 20s, that's how I see them, are the best time in your life to explore, to discover yourself and what you like, your passions. And I think job hopping and just exploring new jobs is something you should expect, and your parents should expect it especially. The only advice I could give you, it's not even an advice I invented, something a good friend of mine told me a while ago, is to approach your career the same way as you approach your romantic ambitions. That might sound a bit off, but what he meant by this is that we're all searching for the one. In order to find him or her, you will probably have to go on a lot of dates. This is the same in the career world, because what we all have to do is, or the way we have to approach things is, see your first job as a good first date. If you like it, stick around for a while, see how it is. If you don't like it, well, just ask another employer out. And you have to play this game, this love game between you and employers for probably the next 10 years at least, until you find the right job for you. Thank you, and I look forward for your questions.